Stay positive, my friend. Don't worry, and everything will become clear. Fight or Flight comes to us from Vertical Entertainment and director James Madigan, who's worked behind the scenes on other projects such as Iron Man 2, where he helped do the fantastic visual effects, and this is his first time stepping behind the camera to helm a picture that was written by two people. Yes, remember that. Two people needed to write this film. DJ Cotramo, who was Flint in G.I. Joe Retaliation. Remember that G.I. Joe movie that should have been a whole lot of fun because Bruce fucking Willis was in it? And it wasn't. It was a sloppy mess, as opposed to the other G.I. Joe live-action movie that was actually a whole lot of fun. I may actually retro-review those movies at some point. Let me know if you want to see that. But don't worry, DJ wasn't the only writer that took the blame. I mean, took the, duties here. I'm sorry, I'm tipping my hand as to how I felt about this movie already. Brooks McLaren, that is, who did How It Ends. This movie wouldn't end soon enough. I'm sorry. Okay, look, Josh Hartnett plays Lucas Reyes, who is a scraggly blonde, formerly disgraced individual, shall we say. I mean, they reveal a little bit later on what actually happens, but I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. He is living in Bangkok, don't worry. He's not being roped into anything. He's not found hanging in a closet like David fucking Carradine in June of 2009. Had a closet full of jokes about that, but nevertheless, he basically is down on his luck, and he just wants to be left the fuck alone. But then a former colleague, shall we say, Catherine, played by Katie Sackhoff, I'm not laughing, shut up, I'm not laughing. She was in Riddick and Oculus, but most people that know about sci-fi, especially TV, will probably remember her most famously from Battlestar Galactica. I do have to say, by the way, that she actually is a pretty good actress and has been in some interesting projects, shall we say, but she says, Lucas, I know we've had our differences, but I have a way that you can help us, you can clear your name, and you can get your life back, shall we say. So pretty standard cliche stuff. You need to board this plane from Bangkok all the way to San Francisco, and you need to find somebody named Ghost. And then once he gets on that plane, it becomes obvious not only who Ghost is, in fact, it's very fucking obvious from the moment they introduce that particular character, but that this is no ordinary flight because everybody seemingly on that flight, or at least 80% of them, are bound, determined to kill, maim, and, well, basically collect the bounty that is on the head of Ghost, and possibly on the head of Lucas, because maybe it's a double, secret, quadruple turn. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so, let's talk about a couple other characters in this. Aaron Hunter, played by Julian Kostoff, who starts off right off the bat swearing a whole bunch, and I don't really fucking care if people swear, that's fine, but this doesn't feel earned. This just feels like we need to throw really bad sweary writing at people. And the movie already is totally inconsistent within the first 15 minutes. This movie is maybe 100 minutes long, in all honesty. But the other standout character is Isha, played by Karithra Chandran, who is gorgeous. Good grief. With respect. With respect, what a beauty she is. She is one of the flight attendants, and she's featured prominently throughout this movie. And basically we just have, some halfway okay stunt work, but then often it just feels like shit that we've seen done before. It's all been done before. Like in Bullet Train. Remember when they made Bullet Train for a whole lot of fucking money and Joey King was wasted in it? I didn't really care for Bullet Train. But at least that had a big lavish budget and at least sort of earned what it did. This is like Bullet Train on a fucking shoestring budget. Now, Vertical Entertainment has produced some good stuff. They did Your Monster. They've also done other stuff. Check out Wikipedia. Check out a list of their movies. And you will see that I've reviewed quite a bit of their stuff lately. And I'm not necessarily happy about that, but I'm going to keep that a bit, vague so people can, maybe find other reviews. That being said, yeah, eventually things sort of kick into gear, but then it pulls back, and the movie's totally inconsistent with its serious subject matter that it tries to shoehorn in. And then the humor only hits 20% of the time, but they really try to make it funny. I mean, there are a couple moments that aren't all that bad. There are a couple splattery moments, especially later on within the last, I'd say 20 to 25 minutes. And yes, the movie is meant to be a good time. The problem, or at least the biggest fucking problem of this whole thing, is that it's terrible. This is a really, really terrible movie. And by the way, in case anybody's wondering why I'm already reviewing this, it is because this was the Regal Mystery movie. And I'm sorry, but this was fucking dog shit. This was not any fucking good. I didn't give a shit about the plot. It didn't seem to be played for laughs. Character motivations change at the drop of a goddamn hat. They tried to give Ghost, once they revealed who Ghost was, like this backstory that maybe they aren't all that bad and that these killers are actually bad and that maybe these other people that seem good aren't really all that good. But the problem is this movie just feels like it should have gone directly to streaming. Like, this doesn't feel like a theatrical release. And this was one of 3 movies I was going to watch on Thursday. Fortunately, now I only have to watch 2. Clown in a Cornfield and Shadow Force. But yeah, this just didn't work for me. I mean, yes, there are some funny moments near the end where Josh Hartnett basically just goes all feral and crazy and everything. And when the movie leans into just the ridiculousness, and no, you can't go full bore, adrenaline in my soul, every Hartnett out of control. You can't go like that for the entirety of the movie. But the thing is, this movie seems to introduce things and then seemingly forgets about them and then reintroduces them just for a gag. But by that point, you just don't fucking care. So overall, this movie just did not work for me. I mean, I like Josh Hartnett. I mean, this makes up for Trap. I will take this over Trap any goddamn day of the week. And again, Rithra, who, Jesus, Miss Chandran, my goodness, with fucking respect, again, gorgeous. The thing is it just seems like it's going to introduce characters and then it just forgets about them and then brings them back. There's like this one character called Cat Eyes, and I mean, that actress is really fucking pretty. Nora Dorcon, I think is her name. I probably butchered that. And she would have been somebody maybe to, invest a little bit more time in. And yes, there are moments that could have worked in this, but I just feel like overall this was just an inconsistent mess that really dragged on. Once it seemed like it should have kicked into gear and just smash cut to the end. That being said, it's in theaters this week. If you want to check it out, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So basically, it turns out that Josh Hartnett and Catherine used to date, or Lucas and Catherine used to date. She gets him on this flight coming through for him because they broke up. And there's like this tech company that's like, it's like called Blue Corp, Your Life One App, or something like that. There's one called Blue Water because I want to drown this movie in blue fucking water. But after basically going on the goddamn flight, he finds out that Isha actually is Ghost. Really not that hard to figure out. There's a reason why she's doing this, so why she's on this flight posing as a flight attendant. Turns out she's not actually all that bad. She is trained with a particular set of skills, but this is because there's a big old box that looks like a giant Xbox, like, demonstration that is like the superpowered computer that has helped that it could like blow this whole operation open, because it turns out that Catherine and this guy named Hunter actually are in cahoots about this because they put this hit out on Lucas and also this hit out on Isha because she was kidnapped as a kid, a child prodigy. It was really, really good on technical stuff and hacking and everything. But then she got so good that they had to find a way to silence her, but they couldn't. She'd freed other people, child labor, violations, freed people, including some extras that I described as Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon crew for some reason. And that was never... I don't mind not explaining things, but I go, if you're just going to introduce stuff and think it's going to play for laughs, I don't really think it's going to hit like you think it will. And also, it turns out that she also was gut shot at one point. Isha was. Just going to call her Isha because that's her name. And the idea is that he could tell that it was her, but now they must band together. And the movie actually starts out near the end of the movie with the flight, fight kicking into gear, and then the side opening like we're fucking Final Destination 1 or the end of Final Destination 5 that tied into the end of the beginning of Final Destination. And essentially, we go back to 12 hours earlier. So yeah, this whole thing takes place over 12 hours. And it feels like it takes place over about 2.5 to 3 hours. So nevertheless, we are, just on this flight. He does some violent stuff at one point. There's this opera singing guy that could be Italian, could be Spanish, could be Bulgarian, for all I fucking care. And he gets shoved into like the sprinkler system and his head gets gashed and punctured. His skull gets punctured. That actually was okay, except it didn't feel earned. Then once he finds out who Isha is, they go on the offensive. The pilots are trying to keep everything in order. There's some stuff about the flight crew not being able to really do all that much, keep people silent. Also, this plane seemingly has a lot of space, despite the fact any outside shots, it doesn't really look like it's all that spacious. But then we find out that, yeah, Catherine and Hunter are in cahoots. And this was basically to get that computer delivered along with Isha, because it could blow their operation open. Like this app that is this technological wizardry thing that controls people, I guess. I mean, I started to zone out on this movie quite a bit, and it seemed like half the audience did too, because other people were just like, huh? What? And there are a few halfway decent amount of stunts. There's one point where she beats somebody with a heel. There are worse ways to go. She hits him with like one of those like lunch box things or storage box deals. Lucas, being he ends up getting a woman in the eye with like a glass, with like a wine glass, champagne glass, and then headbutts it into her head. And that was kind of good. And see, if the movie had leaned more into that shit, I might have been more on board. But then, yeah, it turns out she was doing this to bring down this whole operation. And also, all these killers, apparently there's just an endless supply of like all these killers that have nothing better to fucking do. At least in Bullet Train, you sort of could see what they were trying to do. I didn't like Bullet Train, but I certainly didn't like this. Like, in trying to change the setting, it just made it more ridiculous. And not ridiculous in, oh, well, that wouldn't happen. Or just didn't fucking care. There is a point where she has some drugs, some vials and stuff, and he ends up taking something that's supposed to be adrenaline. What actually turns out to be toad venom, and he's freaking out and this kind of stuff, talking about kill box and killing all people and destroy all humans. And they get in a fight. There's a chainsaw, motherfucking chainsaw, so come and get it. And yeah, there's a chainsaw thrown at somebody, and people's arms and limbs get hacked off. At one point, a girl, I believe Cat Eyes, gets a pickaxe of some kind in her head. I do want to apologize, by the way, if I sound a little bit off. Allergies are kicking my goddamn ass, but I still made sure to watch this movie. So, that being said, like that, okay, cool. They build up this character and then they just write her off. This felt like it was hacked to death in the studio. And then, after killing a bunch of other people, it turns, basically Hunter makes a deal with Catherine. They're going to wait for the plane to land. They're going to take Isha. They're going to take the box. And that's it. And she describes that box, that computer as basically a supercomputer that I'm going to use for da-da. And the idea is, the plane isn't going to land there. Catherine ends up shooting Hunter, because why not? And, yeah, it turns out that Josh Hartnett's got stabbed and not really doing all that well, but he basically tells Catherine, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. What? Any of it. I wish I could barely do any of it by this point. But they're flying, and it turns out, oh no, that giant Xbox model computer was actually flying the thing the whole time, and the pilots weren't. You would have thought the pilots would have known that unless the pilots were actually in on it. The pilots got beaten by some missionaries at one point, so God, I hate the missionary position sometimes. But then they land somewhere, because why not? Sometime later, he wakes up and he's in this like blown up hospital, but they have enough for an IV and stuff like that, and he gets fixed, and there's this explosion, and she says, "Oh, good news, you're alive. Bad news, it's not over yet." Fucking dare you, Fight or Flight? How fucking dare you? How fucking dare you do this? Think you deserve a fucking sequel with how messy this goddamn thing was. It gets an F. I'm sorry. It gets an F. It's not very... If you want to go for splatter violence, yeah, maybe the last 15, 20 minutes will satiate you, but realistically, this movie is a slog. So yeah, gets an F. Agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.